The nicknames that I've been given over the years have varied. One was Ai Uan, which in northern Thai means fat brother, because I ate so much. Lately, the older I get and the grayer I get, they just call me Lung Andy, which means Uncle Andy. I'm Andy Ricker. I'm the chef and owner of Pok Pok restaurants in Portland, Oregon. Here to show you a dish called Mama Pat out of my new book, Pok Pok Noodles. So it's a stir-fried instant noodles with pork and vegetables. This is a favorite of university students, high school students, that kind of thing. You might find it in a cafeteria in Thailand. While it's not the fanciest thing in the world, it's something that everybody loves. I want to make some accompaniments that we're going to eat with the dish. So first we'll make the prik nam som, which is the chilies in vinegar. So relatively mild. We're using serranos here because we don't have exactly the chilies that you would find in Thailand, which are called prik chifa, or skyward pointing chilies. But it's typically always green chili that they use because they're more aromatic. And it's really simple. It's just chilies sliced up about 1/16 of an inch, and then some vinegar, just enough to cover it. And then some Thai chilies here. The Thai chilies we get in the United States are actually called prik jinda. They're not the really super hot rat shit peppers or prikinu that you find in Thailand, but they're suitable. But these ones you want to cut into about 1/4 of an inch, because if they're too small, what you end up with is it's just really, really spicy, and it just kind of, everything gets too spicy. And then fish sauce, a Thai brand of fish sauce. If you can't find a Thai brand, you could use a Vietnamese brand like Red Boat or something like that, but Thai brand like squid is usually a good one. Those just have to sit for a few minutes to infuse the flavor, and they're really good. The next thing we're gonna do is marinate the pork a little bit. Typically when you stir fry, you're cooking quickly, and the seasoning that you're using doesn't have time to really penetrate the meat. So this is an extra step to make everything more delicious. Got a nice piece of pork loin, and I'm going to just slice it into nice strips. And I'm gonna make sure that it's about 1/4 of an inch thick. Not too thick, not too thin. My first experience with this dish was at a cafeteria in Chiang Mai in the Faculty of Humanities, where the students go to eat. And a good friend of mine is the professor there, and she took me there for lunch. The biggest line was for this, for the stir-fried instant ramen. It's just one of those kind of crappy junk foods that students love. And the other thing is that it's cheap. We're going to use a little bit of seasoning sauce, which is a soy sauce type product, but it has some other stuff in it. It's kind of a little bit sweet. I'm just gonna give it a little bit of dash, and just a little dash of fish sauce. Not too much, I just wanna get some flavor in there. A touch of sugar, and a little bit of white pepper, and some garlic. You can just give it a quick chop. Just gonna give it a quick mix here. I can be a little bit more generous with the fish sauce. Maybe about a teaspoon for this much. You can marinate this ahead of time. You can do about like an hour in advance. You could leave it longer, but it doesn't really need it. And you can do it up, 5-10 minutes beforehand. It's still gonna taste good because the pork will absorb the fish sauce really quickly because we've got it cut into small pieces. An important part of this dish is the vegetables that go with it. Could be anything that you have in your fridge. That's the great thing about this dish, is it's really kind of a fridge cleaner. Today we're using a Napa cabbage, some green onions, some yu choy, carrots, and onion. And this would be typically stuff that pretty much everybody would have in their pantry in Thailand. Napa cabbage, we need about a 1/2 cup of this, so like one nice big stem. I'm just gonna cut it in half, and then just cut it into little 1/4 inch slices, about a 1/2 cup. Also some yu choy, and yu choy is a Chinese mustard. It's also sometimes called choy sum. It's pretty soft, and it cooks up really easily. So it doesn't take long when you flash fry it. This I cut a little bit bigger, about 1-inch pieces, so that it's a nice bite-sized chunk. That's nice. There we go. Carrot. This one we're gonna peel first. Carrots you're gonna cut a little bit thinner because they're a much harder vegetable. I'm just gonna turn it sideways, give it kind of a bias cut, about a 1/16 of an inch thick. Green onions. Go. So next, just a regular old yellow onion. Onion is the international filler food. They're cheap, they add sweetness. You can easily find them. They're good any time of the year. I don't go across, I go with, and that with the grain on the onions, because then they'll hold their shape better. So same story here, about a 1/4 inch julienne. And then finally, we've got some bean sprouts. And I'll just add about a quarter cup of that. Now we got everything prepped. We're gonna cook it up. Now this is gonna go quick because we're using a wok and it's really fast. If you're at home, you can use a non-stick wok pan on a fire. So I'm gonna drop the noodles into the water because they need to sit in the water and cook for a minute or two. And by the time I'm ready to throw them into the wok, they need to be cooked all the way. I'm gonna drop that into boiling water in a thing, and I'm gonna get my flame at full roasting boil here. Wok's starting to smoke. I'm gonna put about a ½ ounce or 1 tablespoon of oil in there. In goes the pork. And that's frying away there. And then I'm gonna get an egg, crack that, put that into the pan as well. Push the pork off to the side. Crack the egg yolk. Let that fry in the oil in there. Get the egg flipped over. Stir fry those up. I'm gonna add the vegetables. Right there. And start stir frying. Those are done. At this point, the noodles should be boiled and ready to go. So in go the noodles. Still with the original amount of oil that I added. Seasoning sauce, oyster sauce, about a tablespoon of those. I'm gonna add a little bit of this, some sugar, get that stirring. I'm also gonna add some water, or if you have pork stock or chicken stock, you can use that. I'm gonna add a little bit of white pepper. And so that little bit of water that I added has combined with the seasoning sauces and the sugar and is now kind of thickening up a little bit. And by the time the majority of the liquid is absorbed into the noodles, the dish is done. And that's about right now. Now, if you're doing this in a non-stick pan on a stove that doesn't have as strong of a fire, the whole process is going to take about double this time, right? This went really quick because we're in a carbon steel wok on a really high heat. Now we're done, and we're going to plate it up. And then to plate, you just simply dish it onto the plate. Typically, all the noodles will come out first, and you can kind of scoop the vegetables and pork on top. And then sprinkle with just a little bit of green onion on top. You end up with that. So there's mama pot. And typically, when you make noodle dishes in Thailand, they get made so that the baseline flavoring is good. Like it's flavorful, umami rich, but it has room to go in any direction. So to adjust the flavor, we can use the krung krung, or the things that we use to adjust the flavor that we made earlier. So if you want it spicier, just straight spicier, you might sprinkle it with a little bit of dry chilies. If you like your stuff a little bit sweet, which most Thai people do, you might add just a little bit of sugar to it. And if you like sour and a little bit spicy, you can use the mild green chilies and vinegar. And what this does is add a little bit of spice, a little bit of sourness, but it also cuts the richness of the stir-fried dish. And if you want it to be saltier and much spicier, you can add some of these red chilies over the top and a little bit of the fish sauce they've been soaking in, and that'll make it saltier, more umami rich, and quite spicy. So here's the finished product, the mama pot. Typically, before you eat, you would mix to combine all the flavors, so you're not just picking off little pieces. And in Thailand, people eat food with a spoon and a fork. Spoon to pick up the food and put in your mouth, fork to push the food onto the spoon. So you can just you can get a little bit of the noodles, get a little bit of the meat, a little bit of the vegetables. Cheers. So you have all the textural components. The vegetables are still crunchy. The meat's cooked through, but a little bit chewy. That's a desirable thing in Thai. It's spicy, sour, salt, sweet, umami rich, and also rich from the fat that we cooked it in. It's a really balanced, really delicious thing. And we made it look fancy, but really this is literally student food. This is stuff that would cost about 50 cents in a cafeteria at a high school, at a university cafeteria, or something like that. Super fast, super simple. You use leftovers, it's really tasty and really filling. For the recipe, click the link in the description below.